upside down.
For the price of the GoPro,
Yeah.
the quality isn't as good as you would think it should be.
I would say for the price of the GoPro, it gives you way more than it needs to give you.
No, is it not like €1,200?
It's like 900.
It's supposed
But
to be
stabilization,
4K, but the
4K.
image,
The image is unbelievable as long as you're outside.
yeah,
It's the lighting is really leaves it down.
the lighting is actually the problem.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a massive infrared heater for the shed.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
You're going to get a sunbed and strap it to the wall. Like
Summer's over.
Summer's over, yeah.
Some might say we never got a summer.
I don't think we did. Even though we hadn't had bad rain all summer long until this week.
Most of this summer in Ireland has been since about April, which was really cold up until April.
Yeah.
Like-
we had a very warm winter.
We had a weirdly warm winter, and then spring was the colder.
Yeah.
So winter, it's the weather has changed.
The weather's changed.
You know, when people are like, "Oh, climate change is not real because it's warm today," and you're like,
Yeah, that's the fucking point.
"Good job, bro."
Dumbass.
Or they'll be like, "It's cold today," and you're like, "Yeah, good job. That's a good assessment, kid." No, you know, but it seems now that up until like January, it's really mild. Really mild.
Incredibly so.
And
10 degrees most mornings.
And then most of spring seems to be, we had several weeks in a row where it was like -5, -6 at night, which is
Great for shooting.
great for shooting, but it's inconvenient.
Yes.
And then it was pretty cold up until April. And then we had a few days of summer. It's very hard to explain to people in other countries. I'm sure other island nations might be like this, but the predictability of our summer is impossible. You have no idea what we're going to get.
Yeah. I think you can predict it in the fact where it's probably going to be shite.
But some years, the odd year, we'll get like 2 or 3 weeks of really nice weather. But then, you know, in other countries, even if it's terrible weather, like I have some friends who live in Canada,
Yeah.
and they're like, reliably, 9 months of the year it's really cold.
Yeah.
But it gets really hot out of nowhere for 3 months in certain parts of Canada. And then
Even
back
where
to
we
cold.
had the training camp in Portugal,
Yeah, reliable.
you're like, April, it's going to be warm, but not too warm. May, it'll get a bit warm. June, unfeasibly warm.
Yeah.
And that's like, you could set your watch by that. There's not a single weather pattern in Ireland you could do that with.
The Balkans were on fire this summer.
Were they?
There were some places in like 40 degrees.
Where are the Balkans zone?
The Eastern European, some certain
Okay.
nations.
Okay.
Not all Eastern European countries are Balkans, though.
But all Balkans are Eastern European countries.
Do you want some interesting history?
Go on. I need to remember something now, so I'm going to keep talking.
I remember
about
my
that
thing.
way.
So what was your thing?
No, go on. You have to go first.
So have you ever heard of a dictator called Joseph Broz Tito? I think it's Broz, but I'm going to call him Broz.
I think I listened to a podcast on that.
So Joseph was
Is he on Real Dictators?
I don't think so. Not yet, at least.
Okay, go on anyway.
So he was a former dictator of Yugoslavia during the years after World War II. He actually led the Yugoslavian partisans, I think. So allegedly the most successful resistance movement during World War II. Bit of a Billy Big Balls.
Okay.
Bit of a tough cunt.
Right.
He was definitely involved in either the Russian Revolution or World War I. I'd have to check that up
Okay.
specifically. But he was a bit of a lone wolf. But he was a guy who was he got things done. Make no mistake, though, he was a dictator.
They make him tough out there.
He was a president for life in Yugoslavia, a prime minister for a long time as well. But he was pretty famous for sending a very interesting letter to Stalin. So it was the communist country of Yugoslavia at the time. But he separated himself from the Soviet communist bloc. So Stalinism, he didn't like that. Didn't like this Soviet communist bloc, isolated himself. And obviously Stalin did what he does and sent some assassins to kill Joseph. Didn't work. So he sent a letter to Stalin and he was like, "Stop sending killers. We've caught 5 already. We've got 1 with a gun and 1 with a bomb. If you don't stop sending killers, I'll send a fast one to Moscow and I won't need to send another one."
Jesus Christ.
Bit of a Billy Big Balls.
Jesus Christ.
Stalin didn't get him. He died in the 70s.
Those dictators have so many assassination attempts against them. Like Castro had hundreds of them.
They were ludicrous.
Franco,
Comical.
hundreds.
Those assassinations against
There's
Castro.
lads going up there with water balloons trying to drown them. Like,
No, there were assassinations against Castro that were equivalent to YouTube pranks.
yes,
That's how close they were to getting killed.
My story is weather related.
Go on.
So Wednesday evening, we had a big storm coming. Was it Storm Thomas or Etnas or something?
I was oblivious to the storm until I walked out into it. And
Okay.
I was like, oh, there's a storm.
So I was working on the house. We have 2 big sheds at the house. One's a big metal shed at the back. One's a block garage with all the tools in it. And I had emptied a full trailer of plasterboard, so like 30 sheets of plasterboard, then filled the trailer up with help from one of the lads. Thanks very much, Jace. Fill that up with rubbish. hour and a half of work, right? Reversing the trailer back into the big shed, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, the roof of the shed is drooping. One of the main supports had just rotted away and was just after falling down, right? Mm-hmm. So then had to go get all the tools out of the garage, reframe the side of the shed, got a car jack, jacked up the roof with a 4x2 on top of the car jack, everything sorted, closing the doors across, bringing all the tools down to the garage. Next thing, the garage door is on the ground. This big old teak or mahogany door just cracked straight down the middle, obviously from banging around in the wind.
Yeah.
Took that down, took the other half of the door off the hinges, framed it all up, glued it back together, clamped it back together, screwed 4x2s through it, hung the door again, right? Rang my missus and said, oh, I'm after having the night. Like, she left 2.5 hours ago, and I was like, I have 20 minutes work left.
Yeah.
I'm after having the worst of evenings. And she goes, you have to be more careful with leaving that door open. Just hung up the door straight away, or hung up the phone straight away. I was like, how in your 31 years or 30 years of learning how to interact with people, how do you think that's the correct response to that?
Well, she can say that to you.
How is that how you respond? That's like, oh, that's terrible, isn't it? I'll see you there in another hour.
Did that irritate you?
Beyond belief. I just literally just hung up the phone.
You couldn't
hung up the phone, threw it back in the Jeep.
Was Murphy gone home to bed?
Murphy was gone to bed, yeah. Murphy loves pottering around out in the rain, but he gets very shivery, like.
He is a skinny boy.
He's a very skinny boy, yeah.
So
he doesn't have anything on him.
Yeah, so that's the life of really Sika Strength. You know, 1 minute you're looking at Joseph Tito, next minute you're blinging up doors. Like, it's all happening here.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are all happening, possibly the biggest seminar of the world is going to happen, but it's all secret at the moment.
Weightlifting seminar.
Weightlifting seminar, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if we can make everything happen for our Londonites or Londoners.
Yeah.
Londoners.
UK in general.
Yeah, UK people. Although,
when you hear the roster for the seminar, I think you travel from further.
I don't think, I've noticed this, is city people don't like traveling far. Not even outside the city, but even internally in the city.
We were used to traveling 2 or 3 hours of a Saturday just to go and train. Wherever you're going. Maybe you're going to Dublin, maybe you're going down to Clarence, maybe I was going up to Mallow, wherever. You just hop in the car just to go and train. You travel that far, not even to get coaching. We gave a seminar in Edinburgh a few years ago, and somebody said, when are you coming to Glasgow?
Yeah, are
you taking the fucking piss?
That happens more often than you think. You'd be in like one part of Switzerland, and someone in another part would be like, oh, I'd love to go, but it's an hour away. And you're like, oh, are you for what?
We've had a load of Americans travel over to Portugal for training camp.
Yeah, Americans,
3 or 4.
Actually, yeah, Americans pretty good. Maybe it's just Europeans actually.
Because Americans, I think, are just used to hopping in like the pickup and driving 15 hours.
You do hear, and I don't know if this is true because I haven't been to America, but the walkability of certain places is very poor apparently.
Oh, nobody walks anywhere.
But I don't know
unless you're in like the city.
But I've heard places where like, I think someone was in Texas or Austin. They said they were walking and people are stopping to see if they're okay. They're like, do you need a lift somewhere?
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. Because like is this the equivalent of going to Paris and everyone being like Parisians are dicks, and then it turns out that most of them are actually pretty normal, like most places?
You just had the wrong experience in Paris.
I don't know. I think there was...
The US, most of the US, you drive everywhere.
Yeah.
Most of it. Maybe if you're in like New York, Boston... the big, like the coastal elite big cities, they might have some public transport, and they'll have some but even public transport you're not walking, but like pretty much everywhere you're driving up, everywhere. Like, you don't go for a coffee, you go for drive-through coffee. You don't go to the ATM, you have a drive-through bank. A
lot of people ask quite routinely, this sounds like a sales tactic, you know, people like a lot of people are asking for one-to-one coaching, so I've decided to do it again. No, but obviously there's very routinely, obviously a huge percentage of our viewer base is American, United States inhabitants.
Hoorah.
A lot of people are like, are you ever going to do like seminars here and stuff? And we're like, it's not that we wouldn't, it's just that anytime you go look at what kind of visa you need to go working, it's really hard to know which one you should get. And then some of them are very hard to get through.
And then piled on top of that, we have our own little issues.
Oh, well, yeah, we're banned from getting visas unless we go to the embassy.
I think it is very doable for us because we have to go to the embassy anyway to get a visa. So it's very doable just to be like, yeah, this is what we want to do, this is the company.
Well, be open up and honest.
Be open and honest, yeah.
Are you...
As crazy and all as that seems.
Have you tried that before?
No matter what we've done for the last 7 years of flying all over the world doing seminars and just not being honest about
Well,
it.
Europe you can do whatever you want, really.
You can, yeah.
Probably. It's free trade and all that stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I'd wonder. I feel like it just wouldn't be. I feel like you could like have U.S. Customs stop you
like
and look at.
be.
They'd look at your company's Instagram and be like, I can see there's a. I feel like they do that.
Oh, they would do that if you're going on a tourist visa.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be frightfully easy for us to get a work visa, though.
Do you like? I wonder how Clock Off and stuff was doing it, and Tarokity, and did they? I feel like Clock Off wasn't getting work visas. I just feel like he.
I think he was.
Do you reckon?
I think he was.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
He's a big guy.
A big guy, man.
Big guy.
I pay taxes.
Sexy guy.
Nah, there's no way he was paying.
I'd say he was. He was doing like 50 seminars a year.
But when you get the work visa, do you pay a fee, or then do you agree when you get a work visa, you pay some of your income to the United States government, you know?
I'm not sure.
Because God knows we pay enough taxes here in Ireland.
Jeez, we can't be paying him to two of them. No, I'd say how I would see that going is you get your work visa. Then if you're bringing any cash back with you, you have to pay tax on it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Only from the work visa related cash.
Yeah. So like maybe you'd have to register the event. Any ticket sold to the event, you have to pay 10% sales tax or something.
I know.
I can't imagine it being more complicated than that.
For any form of payment transfer from US in particular, it seems to be one of the main countries we have this issue with. If someone wants to do a bank transfer, paying something online, setting up a payment software, you know, there's loads of payment softwares now. It's very difficult for US customers to get set up.
Yeah, the bastards.
Like, you try to get set up on a Revolut, very hard. I don't even know if US people can get us set up on Revolut right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes paying a Visa, even though they'll have a Visa card, just won't work. You know, bank transfers, extortionate fees.
Yes.
I think they call it wiring a lot of time.
Wiring, yeah. Crazy fees. Like,
but we've had people being like, I went to my bank and they're like, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we can't transfer.
We paid a lab in the US to do some of our third-party testing for the supplement. The first time we were getting Sika sleep tested. Really good lab. Did it cost us €50 to send that money over?
It might have cost that, which is a lot for fees. Generally, you get charged nothing here.
Excuse me. Yeah, I just felt it was... I felt it put a massive block on us using that lab again. You know?
Yeah, they were... There was more people since the first time we did the testing that cropped up who do that kind of testing, luckily. So
I think as well what happened is bigger labs were more open to smaller companies inputting orders.
I think they got too busy as well.
Yeah.
I think they got a little bit too busy. They weren't really... They were trying their best, and then they were like, oh, that person doesn't work here anymore and stuff. And you're like, oh, interesting.
Somebody should still answer their emails.
Yeah. Well, look, have you been following the World's Strongest Man controversy?
No.
Been paying attention to that?
What's going on?
So, you know,
You're so man for drama.
No, not World's Strongest Man. Strongest Man on Earth.
Yes.
Shmoo.
Shmoo.
The Shmoo. So, Mitchell Hooper won or whatever.
Yes.
And
big strong boy.
You say I'm so man for drama.
Yeah.
But I only go where the drama goes, you know. And if there's drama manifesting.
I know, but like...
You know, like, Strongman fans, they love drama.
Strongmen in general love
drama.
They're
like... South Africans winning the World Cup. They're like New Zealand losing the World Cup.
Oh my god.
They're like English soccer fans.
Okay, you're making enemies here.
They're like
What's happening?
They're like Middle Eastern people arguing who invented hummus. Like, it's crazy.
God. Lads, that argument is go on anyway.
So everyone was saying, I don't know if you saw it, but Mitchell Hooper was squatting high. Remember that squeak squat machine we're looking at? And we said, I wonder how that'll go. Well, basically they fucked it up a lot, you know?
Yeah.
And Mitchell Hooper, if you look at the videos and his pictures, he's squatting way above parallel, like very high. But what had happened was that the day before, they'd all gotten their measurements taken and they were asked to take their grip stance, bar position, foot stance. They took a picture.
Okay.
Then they were measuring their knee angle with a protractor and calling that depth. So I'm sure most of us agree that's probably not a great way of actually getting hip crease below the knee.
It's not.
That's not...
Because if your knee pushes way further forward, you get way more knee flexion and your hip doesn't go any deeper.
Great point, Darren. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So the next day, they went doing their squatting. And so the weight they used on the test was like unloaded. It's like 120 kilos.
Okay.
Obviously, for a lot of those guys, it's nothing for them. Just a couple of kind of 300 kilo squatter guys, you know how it is. But they went and their photos, they'd protractor measurement, and Mitchell had gotten his measurements taken and they were like, cool, that's grand, and they had those photos or whatever. And then he very clearly was squatting high the next day. And essentially what he started doing Now, this isn't me making up stuff. This is just what happened.
Yeah.
He started just sending his hips back and kind of good morning it.
Yeah.
Staying way above parallel. Keeping a pretty vertical shin angle. But hitting,
I know the feeling.
but hitting depths that he was measured for.
Yeah.
Without changing his stance in particular.
Right. Yeah.
And so he ended up winning that section of the competition. And a lot of people are giving out. Now, Mitchell actually made a video talking about each one of those events. And I did listen to it because I was interested to see. And you know when you know someone's bullshitting you, you're like, I know you know what you did, like, but so he said that he didn't do anything different, but clearly he did, like, clearly he was saying that essentially when he started squatting, that's kind of how he just started squatting,
right.
But I think he thought about this a little bit better than everyone else,
and that's dead right. He won. That's dead right.
Yeah,
if that was a Formula 1 driver doing whatever,
but would you respect him more if he was like,
I'd respect him way more if he was like, yeah, I cheated and that's how I got there.
What I kind of don't like is, I suppose it's not cheating per se. Is that cheating or is it?
No, I think that's tactical awareness.
Yeah, like, so he used tactical awareness to not cheat the rules, but certainly jimmy the rules a little bit. And a lot of people are kind of upset with him. Some people are like you. They're like, no, that's the game and you play it and you won. And a lot of people are like, you know what you did kind of thing.
I think a lot of the discontent you see with that kind of stuff, that kind of stuff where it's like somebody's figured out a little tactical corner that they can cut. A lot of time you see discontent, it's people who don't necessarily play sport or haven't been involved in sport, and they're just like, no, this is every single sport in the world is won on that. Like a World Cup final is won on the scrum half just tipping his hand in and rolling that ball forward, or it's won on somebody standing on someone's toe and then that line out lift is delayed, or it's one on you not necessarily waiting till you hear the gun going off in the 100 meters. You just go and you risk that false start or not, Like every sport is one on those tactical corners.
Or taking steroids.
When
you're not supposed to.
Yeah. So like every sporting event you can think of is like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's only people who have a bit of separation from it or maybe haven't competed in it. They're the people who tend to get upset by it because they're looking at it with a solid filter on it, being like, these are the rules, we must stick within the rules. Everything you do as an athlete most of the time is looking for how you can get around those rules.
But I don't particularly like is when he was saying in that video that he was like, no, I didn't change anything. But it's like, clearly you fucking did. Like,
that's like the Lance Armstrong thing then,
Yeah.
Where it's like, I've been tested 150 times this year.
Yeah.
Like, now you understand why they're lying. But Mitchell Hooper doesn't have to lie there, though.
No, I don't think he just... I would have preferred if he was like, no, I just did the same squat up and that squat setup, and that's what I ended up squatting. Like, the real onus there is on the, obviously, event organisers.
That's just poor setup.
For a massive fuck-up.
Yeah. Is it that big of a fuck-up, though?
Yeah, if you look at the difference when how deep, like, say, half-door squatting and
Okay.
stuff. But also, I don't think in this particular case it wasn't a massive fuck-up because I think he would have won anyway. But the margin would have been a lot shorter.
Yes.
But I think he would have ended up winning anyway. So I think in this particular case, it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah.
But if it had been closer, it might have mattered. But clearly there, who thought 90 degrees at the knee? Oh my God. So Joel Seidman made a video.
Right.
Talking about that, about the measuring it. I think he was looking at Alexander Bromley had made a video about it because he's into Strongman or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a clip above Joel Seidman. Alexander Bromley's above him, and he's like, "See, this is the way everyone's going. Everyone's doing 90 degrees at the knee." He's fully delusional.
I don't know if it's delusion at this point though.
If it's just taking a mick,
I think he gets. The bombers are coming.
It's our Chinese neighbours. They're always up to something.
With Mr. Seidman, I think he's gotten a name for being a charlatan, right?
Yeah.
He's gotten a name for this crazy shit, which got him some traction at the start and is now all the traction he has. Like, nobody's getting information from him. Nobody's getting value from him. But he's there and he exists within that space purely because he is the idiot, Like, he's the kind of class clown,
He's a doctor there.
Yeah.
His PhD.
Yeah. So he's... I think it's like the same thing where someone keeps getting in trouble in school and then their thing is being the class clown and then they just can't leave it go.
I'm seeing lots of comments in his Instagram videos when I went to look there that people are like, yeah, deep squats hurt my knees. So I'm just saying there, like, he might be onto something.
I think,
I think Joel Seaman is the only person.
Seaman.
Oh, sorry. Joel Seedman is the only person only coach we've ever been like, no, they're an idiot. Like there's a company.
We've never even done that.
Kinda.
This is as publicly as we've said it.
Because we have a blanket rule on not talking shit about other coaches, which it is, respect. And it never looks good either.
And then when somebody loses their value to be called a coach, you can just call them whatever you want.
Yeah, so so funny. I was just looking at this video and because Alexander Bromley said, what in the Joel Seed was going on here?
Yes.
He was making fun of him.
Yeah.
Like he was like, this is ludicrous.
Yeah.
But Joel was like, yeah, see, everyone's using this. Like it's delusional. It's crazy.
It's craziness.
But, money talks. Money.
Right. But that's why you get people going to him.
Yeah, I suppose I don't blame athletes in that scenario. Like
athletes are just looking for something new.
No, well, actually, maybe looking for something new, but you're also just looking for someone who might help you, because if you're a professional athlete, right, and you have been injured, and let's say, who was that guy, Nick Chubb? Remember that fella? He'd destroyed his ACL last year. Yeah, like the amount of money you would earn playing NFL is far more than anyone could ever make. Even if you want to become an oil baron, you're selling uranium to Iran. The amount of money you still make as an individual from the NFL, NBA, and stuff is massive. Yeah. And so, if your career depends, your money depends.
You'll do anything.
And if someone's like, no, I've reduced injuries in athletes, and then you see a few other athletes, and it's not your job to know about S&C. It's your job to go play the sport. Yeah. And if it looks like someone is doing something, I don't blame any athlete for getting bamboozled.
Yeah, they do get bamboozled though.
What I would like to see though is, because the problem here from our point of view is that we don't know enough about the careers of those individual athletes. We've had people play American football and stuff like that, but you could say this particular player went to him and then their career went this way or better, and there's other coaches like that. There was some wrestler going to functional patterns and stuff like that, and the problem you run into there from our point of view is how good does their career go before? How good were they at the sport? So the individual knowledge, that specialist knowledge is lacking.
There are unbelievable coaches and facilities, particularly in the US. Cressy Performance is an example of that.
School of Speed?
Are they School of Speed?
Was that what they were? No,
I think so. Yeah, they're so real specialists in baseball development. If you haven't looked them up, go and look them up. Unbelievable. Eric Cressy, really good newsletter. Those guys don't have weird Instagrams.
They don't.
Because those guys have a line of athletes every single year being like, I'm coming to you for my summer off season. I'm coming to you for my senior year of high school. I'm coming to you for my whatever it is. And they don't need that, They don't need the big flashy thing because they just have that conveyor belt just flowing in based on success, just rolls into them all the time. They're the interesting guys. There's some really great coaches out there, but then I think there is generally the person out there who's made their name from outlandish statements or weird things they've said. Then they just have to keep saying weird things to keep getting the views.
I suppose we're lucky the fact that we haven't had to make a career off doing stuff like that. I assume after a certain stage it feels icky. Or maybe you don't even know anymore. Maybe you just start believing your lies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever you think is true,
I think there could be a thing as well where so coming up with something really clickbaity. There's loads of people in our space make real clickbaity videos.
Yeah.
And I don't know, does that feel icky or is it oh yes, I figured out another clickbaity title. You get that little hit in your brain being I figured another one out.
On that subject, Greg Doucette has basically said he does that in videos, so I'm not taking shots and we're putting words in his mouth here, but I'm pretty sure he said in an interview, I didn't watch I saw a clip of him before.
Putting shots in his mouth.
So basically saying that he knows for that drama he knows what it is. It's just for views and stuff.
I feel like Greg is the prime example of that.
But is the onus on Greg not to make the content, or is it the onus on the people not to watch it,
Yeah, I think the onus is on the consumer. Obviously, a lot of people watch his videos. Obviously, a lot of people engage with his videos. Whether it be super sportive or whether it be super negative, you're still engaging. You're still driving that. You're still the person. He gets a Google payment on the whatever of 21st of every month for however many $1,000 Canadian dollars. Yeah. And that's because of you.
There's a rumor going around that Canadian dollars aren't real.
No way. Monopoly money.
It's just not real, apparently.
Can you eat it? Is it like rice paper?
No, you have to use US dollars in Canada to actually buy things. So Canadian dollars isn't the real thing.
That's mad, isn't it?
So it's just freeze-dried maple syrup.
Okay.
And then, you know the way acid is like, you have to
Yeah,
keep it in the freezer.
yeah,
It's the same with Canadian money. You just...
Okay. It's just like, it's purely there as a kind of...
I haven't been to Canada, but that's just a rumour going around that I've started.
Do you know what the national animal of Canada is?
A moose?
No.
Beaver?
Yeah.
Is it a beaver?
It's a beaver.
Beavers are pretty cool, though.
Beaver.
You know, beavers' tails are really good for native populations.
It's a load of fat.
Load of fat in them.
It's supposed to be disgusting, though.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
So do you know the rabbit starvation?
Yes.
It's mostly, I don't know if it's, I think it's actually malnutrition as opposed to starvation.
It is.
It's not like, it's not a caloric consumption issue, because if you eat the brains and the eyes and stuff like that and the intestines.
I think there's just not enough fat.
Yeah, it's the issue is there's not enough fat, but I think you're missing some nutrients as well, I think.
Okay.
I think it's more than you're running out of calories.
Get trout starvation as well.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Even if you eat the eyes and the brain?
If you eat everything, yeah.
But salmon is very low in fat, the flesh of the salmon.
There's a lot of fat in salmon flesh, though. Even in wild salmon, compared to other fish, like.
Yeah, but it's still very low. Like, per 100 grams, you were looking at like 8 to 10 grams of fat, which is quite low.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at steak or something.
Yeah.
It's their brains. That's what the bears want.
The brains.
Very controversial stuff going on in Sweden. We were just looking there this morning.
Do you know what? People who have no idea about hunting need to stop writing articles about hunting.
Well, like...
That article was in The Guardian, and I'm sorry now, lads, but if you're reading articles from The Guardian about hunting, you may as well be asking Joel Seedman how to squat.
But that's your opinion may be correct, but it's irrelevant because so many people read those articles.
Yeah.
So they had to send
Maddening.
out... So they have a brown bear population.
Yeah.
And they're culling them this year, and they have something like 3,300 brown bears. So they were nearly extinct 100 years ago in Sweden. And they have given out more license than ever this year to go cull the brown bears. There's like 150 killed this year. Sweden's a pretty large place, a lot of wild land. And they were basically having to send out police with some of the hunters on the opening day for fear of reprisal from protesters.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's intense, isn't it?
It's crazy when you consider that cull number being so low. Like, for standard mammalian populations that are having, like, females of breeding age are probably having, like, 0.8 calves or young per year. You need to be shooting at least 30% of the total population to keep the population stable every year.
Yeah.
So, like...
That's only at a consistent rate. Like, that's not even reducing a population.
Yeah, that's just to keep it where it is. So if they have 3,500, they need to be shooting over 1,000 bears every year to keep the population where it is. You're taking 10% of that, or whatever it is. You're taking 10% of where it needs to be, and just culling that amount of people are complaining.
There's a wolf population as well, so they have 460 wolves in Sweden.
Yes.
And they're given, I think last year they were either shot 75 or this year they're giving out 75 licenses to shoot them, you know.
It's bizarre. Like, the problem with all of the hunting and anti-hunting stuff is one bear is too much for those people. One wolf is too much for those people. Any amount being killed is too much.
Yeah.
And it's just people don't understand. Like, I can't sit here and explain the laws of thermodynamics to you if you can't speak English. And they just don't have that. They cannot understand it. They don't have the possibility of understanding what's going on. You can tell them all the facts every single day for 10 years in a row, and people just won't get around it. They just don't want anything dying. They don't want anything being shot. You can't change that. That's just somebody, they're just made wrong. Like,
but the problem there is it's so hard to know really what's going on at anything anymore. We were talking about that as well.
Yeah.
In this scenario, they might be correct. Like, that might be too many. We haven't done the numbers. You don't know. Like, so the Swedish government gave these a higher number of licenses this year than they have before. So your default assumption there, and would mine
is that they're correct?
Is that they're correct, and that they've had the relevant biologists say this is the number we need to do, which that does happen. US is very good for stuff like that. Excellent job of those kind of things in most places. What you're assuming here, what I'm assuming as well, or my first assumption is that Sweden have also done that.
Yes.
But you have no idea, because in Sweden, it's a traditional thing. They nearly hunted bears to extinction like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You've no idea if it's a local government member looking for a particular clout with a population of hunters, and then he's getting more license than they should. And I'm not saying that's what is happening.
Yes.
But you don't know. It's impossible to know with things anymore. Like, or
it
rather,
is impossible to
that's
know.
what you should have. That's what we should have been doing for the last however many decades. But I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that, like, it's actually fucking hard to know.
Yeah. The problem is, I suppose, in terms of all anti-hunting stuff all over the world, is it's just the main understanding is that N of 1 is too many.
Yeah,
so like
that's very true.
No matter what happens there, it doesn't matter. That data could be wrong, and there could be corruption because somebody might want to lengthen a hunting season or whatever, right?
Yeah,
that could be wrong. But on the other side is always steadfast in N of 1 is one too many.
But the problem, playing devil's advocate here, as someone who hunts regularly as well, we're in a walled garden as well, right? And no one's allowed in because if you open the gates of the walled garden, you could lose everything, you know?
Yeah.
It is.
It's just people not having an understanding of how the world works.
Yeah,
but it's like somebody staring into an engine, not knowing that there's petrol going into the engine, and they just think, "No, I just turned the key." You know, like we knew somebody whose car broke down a few years ago, and she didn't know there was a battery in the car.
Oh, tell me after.
And the person who was with her was like, "Oh, your battery might be dead," and she's like, "There's no battery in the car; it's petrol." Do you know what I mean? She's listening to this podcast as well.
Steve Ranella calls bears and stuff charismatic megafauna, which I think is very good. But I think what would work really well, it would change a lot of anti-hunters' point of view when it comes to bears and stuff like that, is if you just showed them a video of a bear eating a baby moose or a baby deer, you'd immediately be like, oh, that's actually kill the bears.
Yeah. There's a reason we don't have bears and wolves here.
Yeah.
We killed all of them.
Killed them all.
Like, that's not necessarily right, but there's a reason they're gone.
Very often.
Nobody will bring them back.
Very often it crops up, some anti-hunting commission be like, we should bring back the wolves. And you're like, wolves have like ranges the size of Ireland. You know, some populations, like there's no possible way you could have wolves in Ireland that's ethical for
absolutely no
for
way.
Us or the wolves.
Also, one of the most powerful organisations in the country is the Irish Farming Association.
I was going to say the most powerful organisation would be the wolves. They just start taking over.
The super PAC.
No, Mayo is theirs now.
Yeah, but there's no way you could do it. Like the
West Coast has been lost to the wolves.
Another loss today. Also, like it bears not even thinking about, but those things kill people.
Yeah, sure do.
And if you're there campaigning for the lynx or campaigning for a mountain lion or campaigning for wolves to come back, you're opening yourself up to an arena of consequence there that we haven't dealt with on this island in 100 years.
I'd wonder though, is that just a piece for the journalists that day that they were just like, I've got nothing to throw up today.
I'd say so.
Let me just see if I can get your mad talk about the wolves again. Like, I'll just throw up a headline, bring back the wolves, because that's an easy one to get going, I
assume it is. Like, there's also interest groups in Ireland of, like, there's a couple of sanctuary things that have some kind of half dog, half wolves. I think there's one with a black or a brown bear. There's one with a lynx. And those areas kind of push for that idea, because you understand why they're pushing for it. They're pushing for it because that makes their business more viable. You can be the person who introduced it. Like, you can be the person.
Oh yeah.
But it's craziness. It's not like, lads, I'm telling you now, like, I don't have kids, but if you've a kid and it's snatched out of your arms by a bear or a wolf, or you can't have a dog anymore because your dog keeps getting eaten by mountain lions. Yeah, like that's not something anybody should want. And just because you can't deal with the consequence of, or the realization that things like deer or whatever it is need to be culled, just because you can't stomach that and you can't deal with it doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice an island. Like,
but you're saying you're about not stomaching it. Like, I really think, like, if you are an anti-hunter or anything like that, and you eat meat, just an anti-hunter, I think you should just have a look at videos of wild animals eat each other. I find it very hard to watch those.
It's grim.
I shoot multiple animals every year.
Yeah.
And
they don't kill them, like, they just start eating them.
They don't kill them at all. You really, like,
they're just holding them down and eating them.
It's so fucked up, and I'm glad I still find it fucked up after growing up on a farm and hunting for at nearly 31 years old. It's still, I actively don't watch those because I don't want to be desensitized.
I like watching them. I like doing it.
I want to be desensitized or sensitized to those things, because it's not right that you're. I was in Dublin Zoo recently. First of all, it's a pretty shit zoo, not gonna lie.
I haven't been to Dublin Zoo in years.
But I've always thought this for a long time, certainly during my adulthood years. Predators just shouldn't be in zoos.
It looks so wrong.
Prey love zoos. They're like, here we fucking go. There's the zebras are walking around, the giraffes are walking around. They're just like, this is class.
Those little wallaby things they have in Fota in Cork. Fota in Cork is like, has kind of become a zoo, but
Fota's kind of better, to be honest.
It's just a farm where they have
predators.
Yeah.
Like you see those tigers in the size smaller in the office. You're like, lads, what are we doing here? There was like 2 lions and they were just like, they just look sad. Like
they are
you
sad.
Can't tell me.
They have so people who shoot a lot of rabbits and need to sell the rabbits, sell them to the Fota Wildlife Park.
That doesn't bring back a 500 acre range.
No, but they have like it's like a massive clothesline. Have you ever seen them do it? Mm-hmm. And they strap a rabbit onto it on a big long string and they just chase it, but it's so weird. Like
prey animals, I love it. Like
the
rhino. Do you have this concept of how big an animal is in your brain?
Oh, massive.
And then you see the rhino in real life, and every time you see a rhino, you're like, oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Is this how big Ilya is in real life? You know? Is that Lasha? Like, this is, you see how big the rhino is.
Massive, yeah.
The hippos, you're like, holy shit. And prey animals, I think, they always seem to be very happy, but you look, as far as I can tell.
Yes.
But then you look at the predator animals and you're like, oh. They had Chinese doll, DOHL. Have you ever seen those? They're like kind of Chinese fox. There's some form of wolf or fox, I'm not sure. Okay. They're probably the size of Murphy.
Possibly vulpine.
Stronger than Murphy.
Okay.
Look unbelievably cool. I'd never seen them before.
Okay.
And they just looked kind of... they just didn't look... If I had to guess, they didn't look very happy as far as animals go. I don't... It's...
Imagine, right? So imagine being horny all the time and never ever getting released. Mm-hmm. That's what they are.
Yeah,
they wake up in the morning horny. They live all day horny, and they just never get a release.
But you have the monkeys as well, and you're like, oh, except the red pandas, they're just big muscle ups.
The monkeys in Fota. I was in Fota a few years ago. Have I told you this story?
And you got into the monkeys?
No, but there's like small little monkeys. I don't know what the fuck they're called. They're like 2 sizes of a sliced pan.
Yeah.
And there's one of the monkeys, and there's like a few of us like standing kind of looking in, and next thing a kid is like, Mom! Mom! And the monkey's jerking himself off.
Oh man.
It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
You can't see, but Dara did a hand action there just in case I didn't know what he was talking about.
Just going at it.
Yeah.
Going to town on it.
Like he's got no privacy. Like, what can you expect for him to do, you know?
This kid is just like, Mom, what's he doing? The mother's just dragging the child.
Grooming him. The
one thing I do think about with zoos is like how mad it would be if you were, back in like the 1800s.
If we were in a zoo.
No, when rich people would have like a menagerie of animals.
Yeah.
And there'd be like down in West Cork.
Like Texas.
Yeah. But down in West Cork there was this Glengarriff House.
Yeah.
I think it was Glengarriff House. And your man used to ride...
No, was that Bantry, no?
Maybe Bantry House.
Yeah.
That sounds much better. I think it is Bantry House. Your man used to bring his cart into town with 2 zebras pulling the cart.
Fuck yeah.
How fucking cool is that? Like, we've lost that. Everyone notices cats and dogs. Cats and dogs and a goldfish.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Imagine... No, but like, we should have raccoons and red pandas.
You'd like a raccoon as a pet.
I'd love a raccoon, yeah.
Do you know what we need to get, speaking of... Old Ireland.
A pet for the office.
No. Do you know that picture of Michael Collins and he's giving the speech and he's like this? I'd love to get that framed, but on the metal, like the display thing.
Okay.
That'd be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, that would be very cool.
But we're...
my grandmother slept with a big portrait of Michael Collins above her bed every single night.
The big man.
The big man in his military...
During the interim government, he was the minister for what? Do you know what he was the minister for? You'd never put it on him.
No.
Minister for Finance.
No way.
Yeah, I was right too. It was when they were like pew, pew, pew.
One of the funniest things is
when he's assassinating British
when he
soldiers.
was like during the Civil War, nobody knew what he looks like. He was just a man from Cork. They called him the big man, as you alluded to earlier, but nobody knew what he looked like.
Big man.
So he could just go up to Dublin. And nobody knew.
Shoot some auxiliaries in the head.
My God, yeah.
Armoured cars and things. We were discussing your training for the repeat.
Yeah, the three-peat.
We think. I don't think you can call it three-peat if you didn't do it.
You've never done it.
Well, you've given it an honest go.
I've given it my all.
So you originally were following kind of what you might think would be the right idea, but we reckon so you would have been doing some longer runs. But I think you're better off going straight into just
I still don't believe you, but at this point I'm willing to try and
race pace, not race pace, race distance or less. So skipping the initial acclimatization phase.
That's what I did the very first time.
You skipped that.
Yeah.
You did like a 5:10 mile, 5:12?
5:13, I think.
Yeah, so that's very fast.
It
You were
is very
120
fast.
kilos as well. Like.
I was 100 and the first time around when I was doing a lot of the training I was like 103, 104.
Yeah. I think
Just big.
I think you've done so much running throughout your life that I think you just should go intervals.
Look, we're going to give it one more swing.
And we're going to go mile or less. I think mile, half mile and 400 meters. I think they're the distance.
And then like a 20-minute long run
No.
just once, twice a week.
No.
Yeah, just a little.
You something about these long runs, and I think you need to gone. They're the things that hurt you the most.
They do hurt the most, yeah.
They're,
But maybe the things that hurt us the most are what we really need.
No, it's a sprint. Like it's a 5-minute sprint.
Yeah.
And I don't think those longer.
Does
runs,
anyone know where EPO can be got? Like,
no, I think so. Miles are mile repeats.
Yeah.
400 meters, 800 meter repeats.
Yeah.
Slowly increase the intensity of those.
I need to get a creatine monitor. Make sure I don't die.
Oh,
again.
for the
I think you
random.
can do a little prick thing.
Can you?
I think you can, yeah.
You get a lactic monitors.
Yeah.
Want some of those?
Yeah, it's all right. I understand how much pain I'm in.
so I think those runnings. So the squat for you is actually no problem really once you're
Squat's
into
very easy, yeah.
the shape.
Yeah.
But the running, I think it's straight into intervals at race pace, race distance or less. Sorry, not race pace.
Yes. Yeah.
And see how it goes.
Yeah. Sure, look.
We'll see how it goes.
It's a bold strategy. We'll see if it pays off. I think as well, it's just so hard to know. I definitely need to just be eating more food and sleeping more.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I was losing like 1 kilo a week there for a while.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
I don't think you need to be as light as you think you need to be either.
Adam Klink was 97 kilos.
He was yoked.
He was massive.
He had obliques, like he had visible obliques, like, and
Yeah.
his shafts and shoulders.
Some neck.
His squat was so legit as well. I think we talked about this
His
last.
squat is nice.
Did we talk about this last
That's
week?
very pretty.
Yeah, his squat was good.
Yeah.
Does he do much of that anymore? Do you ever follow?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know what his buzz is. I think he's in with the BPN crew. He was for a while anyway. I think he moved down to Austin.
BPN are making some bank, aren't
Jesus Christ, lads. What a company.
What a-
I remember following Nick Bear when he lived in Korea and he was just a nobody bodybuilder in the army.
they? That's ages ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
By God, has he made something of himself.
They were showing their July the 4th sales there, which is probably like 2 months ago now, more than 2 months ago, and they'd made something like 2 million in the first 15 minutes. It was in the millions in the first
Something
few
outlandish.
minutes. It's outrageous.
Was it 1 million in 15 minutes?
It might be a million. Yeah, maybe it was the fastest million they'd ever done.
How is that even a metric you have?
Yeah, the fastest.
What's the fastest million we've ever made, Garth?
I'm not sure. I'd say about 5 years of. Who knows?
It's outrageous. In 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Imagine packaging that amount of stuff, though.
They're an operation.
I love it.
I don't know how many employees they have actually.
I would say less than 50.
You reckon?
More than 30.
So he stepped down for a bit, and
Yeah.
then he went back running it again.
I think they moved back to where his missus is from. Is it Nashville?
I think he said he felt like I think what it was that he wasn't sure that he knew how to run $100 million company.
Yes.
But he'd gotten it there, so
Yeah.
obviously he's taken back over now.
Yeah.
Seems to be doing all right.
It's an interesting, like that same thing kind of happened with Gymshark, didn't it?
He does
Where-
really good vlogs. Yeah, Gymshark did do that actually, man.
Yeah.
Ben Francis.
It's hard because nobody's done what you've done. In terms of like Ben Francis, nobody's taken a company like that. Like Adidas. Adidas has been there since pre-World War II.
And during
Like
World War II.
Danger.
Danger.
But like so that anybody involved with Adidas can't tell you how to run Gymshark, right?
Yeah.
In terms of how quickly they've grown, how aggressively they've scaled, their risks they're willing to take are obviously very different from the risk Adidas are willing to take. And then with BPN, obviously the supplement game is a bit newer and it's a younger industry.
Yeah.
But there's still not many people in the world who have CEO'd a company like that to the scale and to the size that BPN has gotten to, who can actually sit down in front of Nick Bear and be like, yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah, that's the problem with business. You have people giving you business advice, but until it's kind of specific to your business, it's kind of...
It's worthless.
Yeah.
You know?
But
like there's definitely specific areas where you could be like, yeah, logistically, this is great or whatever.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the overall big story, blue sky thinking, you can't.
No. But on that note, we're going to finish it there.
Speaking of blue sky thinking.
Hope you're going to have a great weekend. You'll probably listen to this on Sunday, so your weekend's probably over.